Good morning. Make sure my volume is up. Morning, y'all. All right. I am running a couple of minutes late. Michelle says she is going to have to miss us. Have a good day at work. Crystal, y'all drive safe. Thank you for joining. All right, let me go to the top. All right, WLJ says good morning, good afternoon to us. I am driving back home, but we'll be listening. Have a blessed day. Same to you. Drive safely. Good morning. Hi, Judith. Thank you. I have missed you all, too. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Crystal, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Okay, you can hear. Okay, cool. Cool. I am running a couple of minutes late. I am in the city today. I have been here for the weekend. I'll get my notes so I can get some notes I need to make. I was here for the weekend. The class of 84. So not my class. I'm a year behind. The class of 84 had a reunion weekend. So it was open to other classes. So I have been in the city this weekend hanging out and doing things. Wait a minute. Are you all saying you can't see me? Is that what I hear? Oh, let's see. Hold on. Volume is fine, but no visual. Okay, hang on a second. Okay, I think y'all see me now. Y'all see me now? I think so. I hit the wrong button, I think. Y'all still don't see me? Y'all should see me now. I think I fixed it. Is that a yay that okay, good. All right, thank you. Thank you. My bad. I hit the wrong button. So I didn't realize you all couldn't see me. Happy Sunday. Okay, we gotta start all over. I didn't even do my intro, so let me get my life together. Thank y'all for letting me know that y'all couldn't see me. I would have just been talking for a long time, not knowing y'all couldn't see me. Hello. It's been a minute since I've seen you all. Okay, so let me do my introduction. My name is Jewel Pearson. For those of you who may not be familiar with this channel, as I introduce myself, I always like to say that I built a fancy tiny house in 2015 because I don't believe you have to give up luxury to go tiny. And since that time, I have shared my journey to hopefully inspire others who are interested in the movement. I do offer coaching and consultations to help others navigate this tiny house journey. And once this video goes live and I get caught up on doing my all of the things, you'll be able to find links in the video description below to connect with me for consultations and coaching. I do serve up a lot of representation in the movement along the way because I want us to see ourselves in this movement and also be successful in the movement. So that is why I do what I do. So if you find this information in the video helpful, I hope you will like it, you'll share it, you'll subscribe to the channel, and then turn on the notifications so that you'll know when content is available. All right, so happy Sunday. Let me get regrouped here. All right. Hey Sandra, happy to see you here. All right. Happy Sunday. Hi, Kathy. Happy Sunday to you. Happy Sunday, Roslyn. Good afternoon, Serena. Hi, Linda. Kimberly. All right. Let me see. Did I miss anybody? Thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for keeping me on point. Um, Hi, Linda. Thank you so much. Hey, Roslyn. All right. Hey, Frederick. Um, I got a chance to connect with Frederick. There was a meetup planned for yesterday, so the Patreon, Frederick is in my Patreon group, and so the Patreon group gets to, one of their Patreon perks is to be able to join the meetup. The meetups are here in Charlotte in person, but in the Patreon group, they can join virtually. So I got a chance to connect with Frederick yesterday. All right, glad y'all can see me. Hi, Sadiq. Um, Serena is saying you're home. I thought you were out of the country. So I'm actually in my little office in Charlotte. I have been home, I think, since the 28th. And I was out of the country, but I'm back now. Hey, Stephanie. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hi, Catherine. Um, Thank you, Catherine lives in peace. I appreciate you. Um, Sadiq is saying I'll have to get on Patreon. Let me drop my link so y'all can get on Patreon. Good morning. Good morning. Um, so, yes, I am in Charlotte. I have been here all weekend. I was sharing that you all could hear when you couldn't see me. The class of 84, not my class, I'm much younger than them. I'm lying, I'm only a year younger than them. Um, they had their 40th year reunion, so my 40th is next year. But they opened up their events. All right, I'm dropping my Patreon link. They opened up their events to other classes, and so on Friday we went to the high school football game, and I think I've only been back once or twice um, since something's not working. Um, Once or twice since I left high school to a game. So we went to a game on Friday. My cut and paste isn't working for me to drop links. Um, I'll have to figure that out. And then Saturday they had an event. I had the meetup. Rosalind, yes, Rosalind. Rosalind, we need you to connect on in. And then I had the meetup planned for yesterday in person here. And then I didn't want to keep doing all the back and forth to go home and keep coming back. That's a recipe for disaster. Hey, Tawana, happy to see you. Thank you, Serena. So I have been in the city. I have had a good time in the city. It was good, really good to see folks. Um, as you all know, as I always share, stuff isn't promised, so you got to get out and do the things and see the people and enjoy. Life isn't promised, so it was good to see people and be seen. It was a really good time. And so I haven't seen you all since I was in San Miguel. I think that's the last time we connected on a Sunday. And because when I got back that next Sunday, we were doing we did a meetup on that Sunday. We were supposed to be supporting Deidre from Poplar Creek. She was planning to have her open house that Saturday, so we were planning to support her, but then the hurricane hit that area. Fortunately for her, they only had a few trees down, but nobody's home was damaged. Kitty, it's good to see you too. Thank you. Um, Nobody's home was damaged. They were out of power for a while. I'm not exactly sure how long, but they didn't have any damage or flooding because one of the areas they kept talking about on the news was that area, but fortunately they weren't impacted. But because the roads up there are damaged and will be some of those roads and areas won't be repaired for over a year. she decided to postpone the I think she's postponing the open house. And so we just did our meetup on Saturday. And then after that, I had Stephanie and Rashida on, and we talked to them, and that was a Saturday. I don't know what's wrong with my cut and paste. I can't cut anything and drop links in the channel. So I haven't been here on a Sunday in a long time. So we need to catch up on all of the things. Hey, Day, happy to have you. Um, Serena is saying on Patreon, can I hit you directly for information advice on tiny living, your business of helping with that? Sorry, I'm not a digital person. Yes, so on Patreon, it is, thank you, Stephanie. On Patreon, yes, we gather in a more private community than what we have access to here on YouTube. And we meet separately each month to talk through all the things, educational sessions, accountability sessions, seeing where people are in their journey. Sometimes not everybody is on a tiny house journey, but we meet to collaborate, talk through things, and then as part of being in that community, you also get after I think it's 3 months, you get a one-on-one session and some other perks. So they're membership level. So yes, please check it out. And I apologize. I don't know why my document isn't allowing me to cut and paste. My apologies. Thank y'all for helping me out. I don't know what's happening this morning. So catching up, San Miguel was amazing. As I shared that with you all while I was there. The big thing for me was going over to sit and chill and relax. As I kept saying, it was like a nervous system reset for me, as I have been so focused on surgeries and the physical healing. I hadn't taken the time that I needed for the mental and emotional, and San Miguel was the perfect place for that. And then there was the bonus of community there. They have a really beautiful community. Black expats in San Miguel. They actually have a Facebook group as well. And so I got a chance to socialize. I socialized way more than I planned to, but it was really good because I haven't been socializing here. And so I went to a party, went to some, like a real party. And there were some other events, went to a lot of dinners and lunches, and it was really beautiful to connect with folks. And I didn't even realize how much my soul needed. Crystal, I've been trying to figure that out. We have to talk. I do need some moderators, but I need to figure that out. It's on my list. I didn't realize how much I needed the community. Like I really went over there to sit and just relax and more focus on my mental and emotional. But that connection was so much of emotion of the emotional that I needed. So, hi Rosebud. It was really beautiful. I went and I fell in love over there. Fell in love with the grocery store. In case any of you all thought I was getting ready to say a man, I didn't. That didn't happen, but I did fall in love with a grocery store. They have a grocery store that's just fabulous, and you know it has to be fabulous because I am not a grocery store person. I hate the grocery store. But they City Market, I told you I had been there probably by the time I left. I think I had been there 5 or 6 times, just going in, touching stuff, and looking around. Um, Restaurants, a bougie, fancy restaurant, like dress up restaurant, 2 bars, a gelato shop, a co working space, a salad bar, just fancy. So everybody was saying it was more expensive. I really wasn't focused on that. I guess if I lived there the entire time, I would really focus on the cost of it. But it was it was everything I needed, the little fancy grocery store. So yeah. Um, right, Crystal. We don't cook, we eat. Exactly, exactly. I am not trying to cook major cooking, so it was a beautiful thing. So San Miguel is so Panama has always been my place. Like I took the Exodus Summit quiz to I think I dropped it one time before, the quiz to see where your place is, where what country you're best suited for, and it asks you a bunch of questions like your preferences and things. And the I got Panama, and you all know I love Panama. Yeah, see, Kathy is saying that grocery store is everything. It is everything. Hi, Robert. As soon as we talk about cooking, Robert showed up. Hi, Robert. I appreciate you showing up. How are you? Um, so now I forgot what I was saying. I got thrown off. Um, what was I talking about? It was something important too. It just left me that fast. I was talking about City Market. Uh, See, this is what happens. Y'all already know. Anyway, it'll come back to me. Somebody tell me what I was talking about. I did have an amazing time. I was saying San Miguel. Oh, I was talking about the Exodus Summit quiz. It came back. Y'all should be proud. Thank you. The Exodus Summit quiz. So Panama has always, always, always been my place. I love Panama because of the big city feel. They have lots of high rises and mid rises and all of the things. Um, um, Tell husband to be quiet, Crystal. So yeah, so that's where I am. Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate you getting ready to get me together. I appreciate that. Serena, I thank you. Um, Panama reminds me a lot of Miami. Y'all know I like big buildings and the city feel, and um, and the water is there, even though like you have to go out of the city of Panama to really get the beach access, pretty beach access, but the water is there in Panama. But Panama doesn't have the beauty that San Miguel has in there. They were um, the color, the architecture, the so in Panama, people are. I won't say they're not friendly. People, I never got like not friendly or anything like that, or that I didn't belong in Panama. But in San Miguel, the people actually made eye contact and initiated smiling and greetings. And hi, Lakeisha. That was different for me because in so many countries, like people, you don't necessarily, some places, let me take that back. Some places, there's a colorism kind of thing going on. I'm not talking about European countries. I'm talking about countries of color. Um, Sometimes and it doesn't even feel like you're being tolerated. It's just they don't do greetings and things like that. You're just there walking amongst the people. But in San Miguel, so many times there was eye contact and people, smiling and going out of their way to kind of welcome you. So that was a different feeling for me. Um, San Miguel is not big city, so I understand Guadalajara. It has the big city feel and is not too far from San Miguel, and it has, as I understand, haven't been there obviously, has some of the architecture. So that's on my list next to check out. But the bigger draw, I think, for me would be the community that is in San Miguel. So I want to visit Guadalajara, but I don't know that any. I know Guadalajara doesn't have the community feel that San Miguel has. So that's a big, big draw. And I hope they're able to maintain the beauty of their community, that it doesn't just, and I think they will, that it doesn't just become overgrown, but I'm pretty sure they will because they've cultivated such a beautiful community. Crystal is saying I'm definitely a city slicker. um, I like the city in small doses, but I want space and seclusion. Yeah, I get energy from the city. I like, so for me, being in a high rise or a mid rise means you got the view of the sky, and that's where I get my energy. That really helps me daydream. Um, I've gotten it kind of old. It's okay, like to be like the farm where I am right now. It is wide open, so that still helps with that visioning that I need for the open space. But to be low and not have some open access to the sky and things is challenging for me. So yeah, I am a mid-rise, and being able to see far just really helps me keep my mental state together. Hi, Linda. Welcome. Welcome, newbie from Connecticut, newly retired and on my journey to live in light. That's a beautiful thing. It is. Thank you, Catherine. It is. I thank you. Living light. I was talking about that with Rashida and Stephanie. Packing light for your exodus, and living light is really freeing, and so it's one of the things that is the lightness of my tiny house journey was something that I had hoped for, but I wasn't really clear on what that would feel like until I started living that in the way it's changed my life from, and I always share from things like traveling, so that I'm not traveling with a big old suitcase and a lot of stuff that ends up being overwhelming and a lot to deal with. I was absolutely one of those people who would get the over 50-pound sticker on my suitcase before, and now I can travel with a backpack and a carry-on, and that's it's some liberation in that. So welcome, congratulations to you, and I'm happy to help you navigate this journey. No, Crystal, I don't think City Slicker is negative, but maybe somebody does. I don't think it is. Um, Sadiq is saying, I've been meaning to look into Panama zoning, but I'd love a tiny in a backyard near within walking distance to Panama City. So, one of the things in so many of the countries, like they're kind of used to living small. Um, so it's not that much of a foreign concept to them. They not necessarily tinies on wheels. That is different. That is a different concept. But in those countries, they do a lot of containers, and so that's something I would, if you're interested, I would look into container homes. Because they're used to container homes because they, from cargo coming in, a lot of the foreign countries have more access to containers. So I would think about that, just not necessarily on wheels, but it's definitely doable, and not something that they would really be, from the size perspective, not something that they'd really have an issue with. And so, yeah, that somebody just asked me to say, maybe you can share your weird wardrobe suggestions for light traveling. Um, Things that can be easily coordinated, colors coordinated. Um, Also, when I travel, I make sure I'm somewhere that has a washer and dryer for the most part, so that I can clean, wash clothes if I need to. But things that can be easily coordinated. In this, if and I'm usually traveling to warm places, so I'm traveling with sundresses. Sundresses are light. You can pack a lot of sundresses. Um, I'll take, if I'm trying to work out or have some walking shoes, I'll wear my sneakers and a couple of pairs of sandals in the suitcase, the heavier sneakers I'm wearing, so I don't have to pack them. But just coordinating things, light jackets. I'll have layers on when I'm traveling, a shirt and a jacket, because it's cool. It's cool when you're traveling cold. Or I'm always cold on the plain, but that also means if you've got layered stuff on your body, then that's less stuff that has to go in your suitcase. And just I roll stuff. A lot of people use compression, those compression packs. I haven't gotten that far yet, but I roll my stuff really tightly, and that helps get stuff in the bag. And then I also have a carry-on that I can expand while I'm packing it, and then it is a type of compression, and then zip it up to compress it so that it is still a carry-on versus letting it get too big. So, and I know there's a lot of stuff on YouTube for packing, small, tips of packing. My tips are nothing like you'll find on YouTube. Let's see. Serena is saying, I thought about van life, but I just don't think that's for me. I thought about buying a property because my home now is a lot of house, no property. So some of those things like renting a van or renting something small, like a small RV, Frederick and I have this conversation because Frederick is trying to figure out which direction he's going in. Sometimes renting a van, or renting a small RV, staying in a tiny house, those types of things will help you make those decisions. Of course, the tiny house won't be necessarily built to your specifications, but I always encourage people to make a list as they're considering this movement of the must-haves, nice-to-haves, and the wish list. So the must-have things that you have to have in a home that make home for you that are, non-negotiable. For me, it's stuff like a lot of windows, like I just shared, bathroom space, like I want to have bathroom counter space. I needed to have a closet. So making your must-have list, non-negotiables. I also wanted to have a home that was accessible for entertaining. So my open room, my big couch. Must-haves, nice-to-haves, the things that aren't really required, but if you have the money, the time, the budget, all of that stuff is aligned, you can include these things in the home too. And then the wish list, like the bonus item. So, and when I first built my house, my wish list item was my Juliet balcony. For those of you who remember my house, for when I first built it, it was my Juliet. I had a screened-in porch, a small screened-in porch, and over it was a Juliet balcony. So the screened-in porch and the balcony were on my wish list, but I was able to include it. So knowing, and you come up with that list, the must-haves, nice-to-haves, and the wish list by paying attention to how you use your current space, like where you're spending most of your time, the things in a home that make home for you, that make you happy. Um, for me, with the window, so I've had a must-have, nice-to-have wish list ever since I sold my home and started living in apartments. So for me, knowing that I have to have sunshine, I need to, when I was looking for an apartment, there was a certain side of the building that I needed to live on, which was the west side of the building, because the sun was going to come up, and the sun stays in the west for the most part of the day. Didn't want to be on the north because that's the darker, cooler side. So knowing those things about yourself makes up your must-have, nice-to-have wish list items, and then that translates to the things in a tiny home that you need to have. So you won't have all of those things, in a tiny house that you're renting, Airbnb or renting out, but you can try out the experience for the space and just see, things that resonate with you, things that are an absolute no. And that could be it's as simple as the size. Maybe it's a 18-foot or 20-foot tiny house and it's just too small. It just feels restrictive for you. Then you could try a larger tiny house, like the part of my house that's on wheels is 28 feet. And when I first was building, there weren't a lot of tiny houses to try, in 2014, but I did get to try one, and it was a 24, not try, I visited for an open house, and it was a 24-foot. And being in that home for the open house, I stayed in there mostly all day. I was able to recognize that if I bought a 28-foot trailer, the bathroom was really small in that 24-foot. Everything else was okay. I knew I could deal with that, but the bathroom was really small. And so I knew if I bought a 28-foot trailer versus the 24-foot, like that home, though that extra 4 feet I could devote to bathroom space. And so that's how I decided the space of my home. But that will help you, doing things like that will help you make those decisions and try it out, because one of the things going tiny, especially if you feel like this is something like your long-term plan, you want to put a lot of effort into it up front in the knowing yourself, knowing your must-haves, nice and nice to have some wish list, and designing it if you have the opportunity, or to design your home. If you don't have the opportunity to design, and I'm having that conversation with someone that I've been consulting with this week, and we went to look at some tiny houses, some pre-built tiny houses. If you don't have the opportunity to design your home, still knowing those must haves and making sure in some ways they're accommodated in that space will still help you make that decision that this home is for me, even if it's pre built and you haven't had a chance to design it. So I hope that helps you. For sure. Oh, I see you're going to book a session. All right, so we'll be able to go and dive deeper into that. Um, Crystal is saying, I'm living this new season for you, Jewel, living vicariously through you. I'm manifesting my nomadic life again. Lots to figure out, but we're going to get there. Congratulations. I'm excited for you. Oh, you said I'm loving. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm loving this new season for me. Thank you very much. I'm loving it for myself. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Hi, Shauna Marie. Hello, hello, hello. Afro minimalism has allowed space for more yes in my nomadic journeys. Thank you for this conversation. Absolutely. Hi, Michelle. Absolutely. That's beautiful. I love that for you. Um, Thank you, Serena. Since I can't do any cut and paste and drop any links or anything, Crystal is reminding you all to like, sub, share, and support. Thank y'all for helping me out. Rosalind is saying it's definitely a goal for me to learn how to travel with a backpack. I have mastered traveling for a week with only one suitcase. It's baby steps. So you're on the way. It's baby steps. I think one of the big things for me is recognizing that even when you have a large suitcase and you get to whatever destination, you don't end up wearing everything that you've packed. And so starting to recognize that about yourself helps you in the backing up process of downsizing your suitcase. You're not wearing all those shoes. You're not wearing all those clothes that you feel like you need to coordinate. And I wear a lot of white t-shirts. Actually, they're men's Hanes t-shirts. Those are my favorite t-shirts. And so I'll have a bunch of those. And, a couple of pairs of, oh, shoot, a couple of pairs of, maybe a couple of pairs of jeans, one pair to include what I travel in. Or if sometimes I travel in the cargo pants that have a lot of pockets, because that way I'm not worried about losing something as I'm traveling. But leggings and a lot of dresses, like, you aren't wearing all of that stuff. So paying attention to that really helps you in that journey. Yes, Crystal, it is absolutely. Rosalind is saying your pearls of wisdom regarding the wish list was invaluable when I started downsizing and preparing for tiny living. I'm so happy with my decisions. Thank you. I'm happy to hear that. I might have to save that for one of my references, put it on my site. I'm happy to hear that for you. That I always like and I'm gonna launch some workshops very soon. In the workshop, one of the things I share is making this list ahead of getting started building, and the importance of, and the reason that is so important is because once you're in the build process, building is very stressful. No matter um, how much you think you've planned and you're ready, building is stressful. The process, oftentimes working with the contractors, your timeline, your budget is going to start messing up. You're always like, it's a given, you're going to be over budget. And that's another thing that you plan for. I think it's like the 20% people say that you're going to be over budget. No matter how much you think and Keisha can probably help us with that. No matter how well you think you're planned, you're going to be over budget. But having that list and having made that list and thought about that list really well up front is going to serve you when stuff gets stressful and the builder comes back and says, or you've ordered some material and the material the price of the material has shot up, and that negatively impacts your budget. When you start having to cut things out of the plan, it's better to know the nice to haves. I'm starting with that nice to have list and eliminating some of this stuff that I had planned, because these are nice to haves. They aren't key to my success in life. And that's going to be a solid decision that you can make, because you made that decision when you were in a more solid place. The stress of having to make a decision when the builder is on the phone to say, something that, and a decision has to be made right there in that moment, and you don't know which way to go because you haven't spent the time up front in making a really logically well thought out list. And then you make a decision in the midst of stress and pressure, because he needs to know how to tell the guys how to proceed right now. And then you make a decision that doesn't serve you in the long run, and you I wish I had said this, I wish I had told him to do this, I wish I had thought about cutting here versus doing this thing. And that's a decision that haunts you and ends up making you unhappy in the long run. So making that list up front, paying attention to yourself, up to your space up front, is key. When I was planning to build my tiny house, like I said, after I decided I was going with the 28-foot trailer, I was living then in a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. And I actually taped off in the apartment with painter's tape, taped off the length of 28 feet. And that was really the length of my living room to a little bit of space outside on the balcony. So I taped off the length and I taped off the width. And that helped me visualize what 28 feet was going to be. And then as I was coming up with my list, I paid attention to, if I'm outside of this space, what am I doing? And so the way my house was, the length of that 28 feet, my kitchen was in that 28 feet, my living room was in the 28 feet, and like I said, part of the balcony. And so I knew my kitchen wasn't going to be as big in the tiny house, my living room wasn't going to be as big. And so and outside of that space was my closet, was my bedroom, and my bathroom. And so I knew my bedroom was going to go overhead, so I didn't even really have to factor that in the 28 feet, because I was having a loft built. So that was the bedroom. And so then the bathroom and my closet were the next thing. Oh, and my laundry room were the next things that I had to accommodate for. And so I knew I was going to have the all-in-one washer dryer unit in the bathroom, which, washer dryer combo unit. And then my closet was going to be part of that living room space. And I knew I would have everything accounted for, all of the things, and it helped me understand this is 28 feet. And so just paying attention to how you use your space. If you're using more of your living room space versus your bedroom, or vice versa. I'm in my bedroom more than I'm in my living room. You might want to focus more on what that bedroom space is going to look like. Or if you're a big cook and you want to have a nice sized kitchen, you might want to focus on that. So for me, that wasn't a priority. So I was able to take from kitchen space, like I have the galley kitchen. That's plenty of space for me, because I'm not getting ready to be in there doing gourmet stuff. And so, again, knowing yourself is key to this journey. Let's see. So thank you, Rosalind, for sharing that. Serena's saying, I am an empty nester. Um, you got it. I'm not a minimalist at all. I don't say I'm a minimalist either. I live small. I'm downsized, but I'm not a minimalist either. I have all of the things in my house. Okay, Robert is saying, I'd like to get a men's jacket from Jewel if only I could figure out how to get to the website successfully. Robert, so today I can't do cut and paste, but and the merchandise link has some dashes in it. So when this goes live, I'll put all of those links, and I'll put the merch link in the video description, so then you can come back and order something. I apologize. I don't know what's happening with my cut and paste in my document. And I can help you with that. I do offer merchandise, so thank you for calling that out, Robert. Shauna Marie is saying, getting clear on your must-haves and non-negotiables can open up long-term possibilities for joyful alternative living. Absolutely. Sadiq is saying, I've been thinking about doing your model, but extending it to 40 feet for a bedroom beyond the bathroom and a hallway for a back door. 40 feet isn't bad. So the length of my house is 28 feet. The porch part that extends from the house is another 10 feet. So it's 30, that the length of that then is 38 feet. And then so that would just be another 2 feet. That's not bad. And the length, so like moving it, length is fine. It doesn't impact moving. Length is fine. It's when you start going to extended widths that you have to think about moving it and whether you'll need to have the wide load permits and things to move it. But length is not an issue. Serena's saying, I'm going to build a tiny, even if I store it for now. I don't want to be years down the road and regret it. So store it, or if you have the ability to, or in interest, let me say that, ability or interest in like Airbnb or renting to travel nurses. We've talked about that here, to let it bring you some income so you can recoup your monies. That might be an option. But I agree. I understand doing the thing that you want to do now. Audra is saying, never got a notification. What happened? I don't know. That's on the YouTube side. I don't send out notifications, so you might want to check to make sure you have it set up right. I don't know. Jocelyn is saying, men's Hanes, only you can make a men's t-shirt stylish. Those are my favorite t-shirts. The V-neck white men's Hanes t-shirts. And then you don't have to worry about them. When they start getting dingy, they can go. A bag of 10 is clutch. So those are my favorite. Rosalind is saying, I'm swapping out my summer to fall wardrobe today, and I was able to purge quite a bit from both seasons, and I'm happy about that. I have that to do as well. And I'm always nervous about doing that because, we go from summer to winter. We don't have fall, summer, and then one day it's summer, and then one day it's winter, which has happened this past week. But then there's a potential that it's going to flip back to summer, and then I'm going to have all my hot winter clothes. So I do usually keep a couple of things that are kind of the in-betweens, but I need to do that as well. And I'm always purging when I do that as well. Hey, Clarinda. I'm glad you made it too. Everybody is here. Happy to have y'all here. Hi, Michelle Lynn Thompson. I'm happy to see some new names here. Rosalind is saying, my entire soul was blessed when I saw your all-in-one washer and dryer. I didn't even know that was a thing. Absolutely. So it's a big thing in European countries. Again, outside of the U.S. where people are accustomed to living smaller, it is a big thing to have the all-in-one unit. Sometimes they only have the one of the things that I found with the all-in-one unit is sometimes the unit, when it goes into drying, it doesn't have heating elements, and so the drying is just cycling around and kind of like beating the water out of clothes, and that's not ever going to dry anything. So when I bought my all-in-one unit, I made sure I had the heating element, and so it was a real bonus to, and I had it in the bathroom. And I remember somebody commented, the keyboard warriors, they were so upset that I had my washer dryer so close to the toilet. It's like, I'm not putting toilet water in the washer dryer. Like, it's whatever. But anyway, it was a bonus to be able to have, the washer dryer in my tiny house in a small space. So now I have, because I have the space, I have a stackable in my shed that's behind the house. So I have, because I have a little more room, I made that the shed my laundry room, and I added a small refrigerator because quarantine and COVID taught me that I needed to have some more space for access to stuff. And then I have gifted my um, all-in-one unit to another tiny house dweller, so it gets to live on. But yeah, it was such clutch. Now the all-in-one unit, it takes longer to go through the entire process, which to me makes sense. Like if you add up the time stuff is washing and drying and add it together, that makes sense to me. My unit wrinkled clothes a little bit more than a standard dryer did, but I was just happy they would dry. I hang up a lot of my clothes to dry anyway. Um, and then the bonus was you could wash or you could wash, you could dry, or you could wash and dry as one long cycle. That was good for me because I'm the person that will oftentimes leave clothes in the washing machine and forget I've got them in there, and then I got to wash them 20 times because they've soured. So being able to set it so that it's all going to the whole process is going to take place in one at one time was a bonus for me. Sadiq is saying, I was thinking about going 40 by 10 and having doors for a porch or a tiny pod for a room, something I've seen Shay do on her models out of New Zealand. Yeah, she does fabulous, fabulous houses. 40 by 10 is not bad at all. 10 feet, I think at 10 feet, you only have to have the wide load signs. You don't have to have the escort. I think it's 14 feet where you have to have the escort. So that should work well. Sadiq is saying it's only me right now, and I was thinking about future guests and such, but I'm not sure. I'm going overboard trying to consider guests that stay there. So I have shared that I feel that, down in my downsizing process, um, going from like 4 bedroom, 3 bath home to for a long time, I went down to a 2 bedroom, 2 bath, and I stayed there for a long time. Part of that was well, my daughter was in college, and so I wanted to be sure, she had space until it was time for her to go off into her own. And then after, even when she went to law school and I knew she wasn't coming back home, I still kind of held on to the 2 bedroom, 2 bath for the same reason, for guests. Or when people would come over, I didn't want them using my bathroom. So I might have the the hall, the bath, and was it half bath. And then I realized, like what you're just saying, didn't have guests that much to warrant the extra cost of that bedroom and bath. Um, the cost of a hotel stay versus each month paying that extra rent wasn't worth it. And I'm the person that keeps her space clean, so my bathroom is always going to be clean, so it's okay for somebody to use it. And so that, from a financial perspective, that extra money I was able to put into my tiny house fund, which was the name of that, my savings account, to build my house. And so that, you have to think, realistically, because we always are holding space for things that don't necessarily serve us well. So thinking about that, like I've also shared for such a long time, Even in my tiny house, I had two, right back in the back of the house when I first had built it. I had that little nook for a fold down table for like a eat in space. And I had two chairs there, two bar stools there. And that extra bar stool, like if somebody comes, they can have somewhere to sit. And then I had to think about how often that happens, and it's almost like never. So now I've got this chair that's taking up space that it doesn't make sense to keep holding that space, and so I let that go, and it makes a lot of sense. Now you've got more space because you're really focused on what it is that you're doing and not holding space for potential. Absolutely. Being intentional. Um, absolutely. Rosalind is saying the weather is so schizophrenic. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Nichelle is saying, I've noticed the drying part isn't always great with all-in-one units, but they seem to have improved over time. Yes, they have. So when I built the units, there were really not a lot of options. And that over drying, and when my stuff would end up so wrinkled, I'd stop it and hang stuff up so it wouldn't get to that point. Um, and they really aren't meant for big loads. So if you focus more on smaller loads, the drying process ends up being a little bit better. But it beat having to go to the laundromat for sure. So yeah. Nichelle is saying I like the term essentialist because minimalist or maximalist doesn't fit me. I like that. Maybe I'll borrow that from you. Um, Rosalind saying my washer and dryer combo uses steam to dry. Using tennis balls and dryer balls cuts the drying time significantly. Interesting. Um, Interesting. So Audra is asking, how is corporate takeover affecting the tiny home movement? It's giving me pause. Are you speaking to tiny houses on foundation, or are you talking tiny houses on wheels? Because I'm not sure I know the corporate takeover you're speaking to. So Audra, help me out with a little more detail. Um, okay, so I talked about my travels. I don't have any major travels coming up for a while right now, unless somebody says I'm over here and I have some extra space, then I might just be out. Um, but if I need to spend a lot of money to travel, I'm having several seats because I'm focused on moving. So yeah, so that's what I'm working on right now. So so I wanted to give you all an update on my moving plans. But before I did that, I know some of you. So last week I was in Exodus Summit, and I know some of you also participated in Exodus Summit, which was magnificent. And I don't just say that because Stephanie and Rashida are friends. Um, I've only missed 1 year of Exodus Summit, and I think that was the second year. It was either the second or the third year. I can't figure out what year I missed. But this was year 5 for them, and I'm always wondering how they will not top last year, but when you roll out a good product, it's always, and this is from my marketing background, it's always pressure to at least be as great as you were the year before or better. And so I always think about that as they're planning for the next year. But this year they did it again. It was really, really, really good. And I always share that it's not necessarily my intent to live full time out of the country. I've decided to stop saying I won't be living out of the country full time because maybe I don't. That's not in my plan right now, but maybe I don't want to say it's not. It won't happen. Um, but so sometimes the conversations or the sessions aren't always necessarily um, applicable to me, but there's always, even within the session that I don't feel like is really applicable to me, there's always some nugget in there of something that is applicable to me. And that's, or some nugget or several nuggets that are applicable to me. And so it is always a beautiful time. Um, we'll have to make sure you can get in there next year, Crystal. But it's always a beautiful time. The first day is a half day, and so it's the kickoff. Stephanie and Rashida do a kickoff, and then for these last 2 years, we've done a rest session with Octavia Rahim. So if you don't know her, you should follow her on Instagram. But it was just really, and I've been talking about trying to focus more on resting because we're always on go. We don't know, especially Black women, we don't know what rest is. We don't know we don't feel like we're deserving of it. We're always taking care of everybody else and ourselves last. And so it was a beautiful thing to be in that session and know that, a thousand or more Black women were all resting and listening to this healing at the same time. And so I so appreciate what they put on each year. It's always a beautiful and a great event. So if you have, all right, Crystal, if you have any interest in living out of the country, not necessarily full time, you want to plug into the Exodus Summit group on Facebook and be aware of the Exodus Summit annual event that happens. And then plugging into the Facebook group, you'll also be able to be connected to um, meetups that happen throughout the country. So there are, several women living throughout the country who gather in their various cities. So that's a way for you to connect with other like-minded folks. And, being in community really helps your dreams grow. So I always recommend that. And then I am going to Atlanta. So I said I wasn't traveling, but big travel. Atlanta doesn't count for big travel. I'm going to Atlanta sometime this week, definitely over the weekend. And I know Stephanie is going to be in Atlanta. So she's planning a meetup on Saturday for Exodus Summit. And so I will most likely attend that and let some of y'all know where I am and what I'm doing. If folks in Atlanta want to connect, Rosalind, I'm talking to you as well. So I don't know who else is in Atlanta, but I would love to connect while I'm there. I haven't been in a minute, so I got to see my mama um, and my family, but then connect. Yes, the Exodus Summit Facebook group is awesome. It's almost 1 o'clock, y'all. So we've been talking for an hour. Okay, so catching up on the move. I have, I think I shared that. So I had two space options that I was considering. And so the one day I was doing a live and I had to end it early because I was going to see the space. That was a space that I had shared that was off of Lake Wiley. Um, and um, that was, and when I shared it was off of Lake Wiley here in Charlotte. Lake Wiley is, for those of you who have followed, I miss you all too, have followed me from the beginning. My episode was filmed in an RV park that was located off of West Lake Wiley, part of the ending park, because I had moved my home there. And I lived in the RV park there for 6 months, so July to October. And it was off of, hey Teresa, it was off of Lake Wiley. And interesting location, that is where I ended up having to leave because I started having some problems with racism out there. RV parks are potential ripe spots for that. So I was only there for 6 months. So I had connected with a woman who had land like right around the corner from that RV park, and I was considering, she'd offered me an opportunity to be on her land. but the location where I could put my home on her land. So she has two spots, and one of the spots that already has power and water access is a small spot, and really close to her house, and so it wouldn't accommodate my house unless I didn't take my addition, which I'm not taking my addition. So the other spot is a little bit further up a hill, and it doesn't have water or power access. And so the cost for me to install power and water at that location is really expensive. Um, and hi, Rachel. Um, it's not as I thought. The homeowner was giving me an opportunity to be on her land. So for someone thinking, well, why doesn't she install the power and water? It's not something that I'd reached out to her to ask the opportunity, so it's not necessarily something that she needs to do or was even considering. So the kind of logical, it is her land, but the more logical thing is, since it's my ask and she would be accommodating me, would be that I'd need to install the water and the electricity. And I have done that at not the RV park, all the other locations where I've been, I've done that. And the second place I went after the RV park, the homeowner and I split the cost of the installation because he knew that if I left his property, he intended to continue renting his spot to tiny house owners. And so, in and he was a really great guy. So, in fairness, he split the cost of that with me. This homeowner, if she would also rent that spot out after I left if I were to leave. Um, and so, it might, but right now she's not. So to ask her to split it mm, is iffy. But anyway, it is the cost of installing power and water at that spot would be really, really expensive. And I'm not interested in like I said, I've done it at several places. But the cost to do it there because of the distance and what would be required to install it is just way too much for me to invest in somebody else's property. And so, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I decided that I'm not interested in doing that. Plus, and so I would also have to pay rent there, and rent is predicated rental amounts. You know how they say for real estate, location, location, location. So the rent there at her location would be the most. Thank you so much, Clarinda. I appreciate you. The rent at her location, because it's on the lake, I get it. Location, location, location. The rent there would be the most I have paid in rent anywhere thus far. And when I was telling her about the cost of installing the power and the water, she agreed to take $100 off the rent, which still for me, if I as much as I was going to have to spend, like I estimated, would be like $20,000, 7,000 just for the water, and plumbing is usually cheaper, so $7,000 for plumbing, and electricity is usually two times or more what you spend in plumbing. So she agreed to take $100 off the rent, which um, I kind of felt like as much money as I'm getting ready to spend in invest in your land in infrastructure, I shouldn't pay rent for a while. But that's that woman's land, and I couldn't expect to tell her what to do on her land. Right, Patty. And so I had to make the decision that that wasn't the direction I wanted to go in. And then the hurricane also helped me. I wasn't feeling bad about it. Like I have really been so much on trusting. And that's what I keep telling you all. Trust the process. I have lived successfully in my house for 10 years. Tiny houses on wheels aren't necessarily legal. They're in that gray area, but I have been very successful, and I've landed in some very nice places and been safe, outside of having to move a couple of times. And so I'm trusting that where I'm supposed to be will be revealed to me. And that when $20,000 came up, I was like, well, we already, there's the revelation right there. This ain't where I'm supposed to be. And then, so I was okay with it. And I felt like, something will come up. Crystal is saying, husband said she meant to say the first year is free because exactly. That's what I was thinking. So when I went to her and I was like, this isn't something that I think I'm going to be able to do. And then she said, well, I'll take $100 out the rent. I was like, $100. Um, so anyway, and then the hurricane, right. The hurricane kind of solidified my decision of no as well because, right. Um, so as the water was overflowing. Oh, thank you, Lakeisha. Thank y'all. As the dams were overflowing up in Asheville, they were having to release water downstream, and so Lake Lure is the water that the dam that I don't think the dam broke, but the flooding. I think they released it so the dam wouldn't break. If I don't quote me on that one. Um, but as they were releasing that water, it had to come downstream, and so it was coming down into Lake Norman, which is in Charlotte, and also into Lake Wiley. There's connections all along. And one of the things that I am terrified of is rushing muddy water. And so I had reached out to her to see how the release of that water and the rain and all of the water was impacting her, because her house is kind of close to Lake Wiley, and I can only imagine the water was a little closer to her house. Like where I was going to be would have been, I don't think though, I don't think thank y'all. I appreciate y'all. I don't think the water would have reached where I was going to be. But the last thing I want to do is be there and not know for sure. And again, I will tell you, one of the things growing up, we lived for part of the time when I was in elementary school in Durham, in the Eno River. If anybody's familiar with that that area, the Eno River was back behind our house, and when it would rain, the the river would overflow its bank and be in our backyard. And that was terrifying to me. I was in first grade, anywhere first to fifth grade. Seeing all that water was terrifying to me. And I can remember one day we came home, so it was raining while we were in school, and the water had gone over the little bridge coming into the neighborhood, and the bus driver wasn't comfortable going through the water on that little bridge, and so she had stopped before the bridge and was like, y'all got to get out here. And I was like, who? Not I'm not getting out here. And I was a little kid, like, well, are you kidding me right now, lady? And so I'm not getting off the bus. I don't know how you're gonna get me home, but I'm not getting off the bus. And so at my older age, I am 57, and I remember the terror of that lady trying to make me get off the bus and the water is rushing. You've lost your mind, woman. Um, and seeing that water in the backyard, like that is just imprinted terror in my DNA. And so when I was thinking about, I hadn't even considered, as I was thinking, oh, it'd be nice to live off a Lake Lure. I hadn't even considered flooding. And so I said, sometimes God just taps me and be like, Julie, you know how they say he looks out for fools and babies, and y'all know I ain't a baby. So that was like the second thing. This is not where I need to be. And so the Rosalind said, It may mean you're meant to buy a piece of land and rent space to other tiny house dwellers so you can live virtually mortgage free. So y'all know I don't necessarily want to live in myself live in a tiny house community, even though I want to develop a tiny house community. Those are like two separate things. Because y'all know I need my space. But that is my intention. Like I am talking about some land, so I do want to. I do. Michelle is saying what Rosalind said. I am talking about. It's a whole bunch of exactly's, Rosalind. I am talking about that. So yes, I'm working on that. Um, but still, like right now, it's still got to be the work done to get them to allow the tiny houses on wheels. The land that I'm trying to talk about is zoned as an RV park campground, but they have the rule that you can't. Um, I've forgotten how many days it is. A lot of the RV parks and campgrounds have a rule about how long you can stay on the property without them. Um, like you have to leave because it's not supposed to be for long term living. But that's something I'm working on. But um, that's an aside. I am working on that. Y'all know that's on my to do list that um, I want to do. So yeah. But $20,000 on somebody else's land, and then when I move, all I can do is say bye to my money that's on your property. That's not what I want to do. And perhaps I wouldn't move, except for the fact that the the river, like I probably could stay there for a long time because it was kind of in the cut. Nobody would know I'm there. One of the not so like I was gonna make it work for me. One of the this area where I was going to be. Oh, thank you, Sandra. I appreciate y'all today. The area where I was going to place my house is a bunch of trees around. There was a little bit of access to the sky. That's not my favorite type of scenario, but because I'm trying to find a place, I was like, well, you can go down to um, the lake and get the sunshine because down near her house was wide open, a lot of sunshine. Yes, 180 days. Thank you. I was, all I could think of was 18, and that's not right. Um, I was thinking I could make it work. And because it's in Charlotte, so I was like, I'm not going to have the place that is everything that I want. So I can make this work, like trying to rationalize it. And I would have made it work. The bonus was being close. It was actually in Charlotte. Um, but that $20,000 is an absolute no. So the other option that I had that came up. So Sadiq is saying the land is close to where I want to be as far as medical services go. So yes, medical services, having people around like where I've said shared before, where I am, I don't have anybody around. So like when I experienced my mini stroke, there was nobody would have found me for a long time until maybe the buzzards, maybe somebody alerted to buzzards. But anyway, so I want to be more in the city. I want to be closer to um, some folks that not a tiny house community. Y'all, I'm working through that. Anyway, um, so I had my ad on Craigslist, and a woman that I actually connected with in 2020 reached out. She saw my ad on Craigslist. We had met in 2020, and when we talked in 2020, she was just offering some space in her backyard. And as we reconnected, she has a parcel that's beside her home that where there had been a mobile home there, and that home has been moved, and so that is the space that she now has available. it already has the infrastructure in place, and the the rent is half of what um, the woman was asking for at the lake. The infrastructure is in place, but I haven't been able to finagle the county into cutting on the power because I'm going to have to still exist there in that gray area. And so I can't call them and say, can y'all cut on the power for a tiny house? Because, they have the rules that they'll need to inspect, and they are going to inspect before they, because the power box is there, but it's off as the mobile home was moved. And to get them to get the power company to cut it back on requires a permit and an inspection. And so when they come out to do the permit and inspection, they're going to be inspecting what it is, what home it is that they are cutting this power on for. And so I couldn't put my house there and expect that they would cut the power on for that. So I'm going to have to put my house there, not involve them at all, and then tap off of the woman's home to get my power like I usually do. Um, so there's going to be some expense in that, but absolutely not $20,000 worth of expense to get the power. So that's still minor work, not work that I'm not accustomed to. And then the major piece is going to be moving my house, and I have a diagram I'm going to show you all that is what is going to be required to move my house. But I want to go back because there was a question that I was waiting for some clarification on. Um, okay, Audra, here it is. So corporations are buying land even when mobile units have been located, and they've been giving individuals eviction notices after 30 years. I need stability, so rent space versus parcel space. So, I mean, it's no secret that most cities and counties, especially urban spaces, urban, maybe even suburban spaces, aren't zoning land for mobile homes. They That's something they're trying to move away from because in their minds, mobile homes have a negative connotation, poverty. They represent something that they don't want to, a direction they don't want to go into anymore. And so they're not zoning land for mobile homes. The rural areas have zoning for mobile homes, will still be zoning for mobile homes because they understand who their constituents are. The residents in those areas live in mobile homes. They live in RVs. Their income is different than in the urban spaces and in the suburban spaces. And so that is true. You can still find that land out in rural spaces. Rural isn't necessarily where we all want to be. It isn't always safe spaces for us, but that is the way it's happening right now. If you want to be in those urban spaces, um, you then would have to look more into a tiny house on foundation, and that could look like an ADU. We've spoken about that. Or in cities that don't have a minimum square footage requirement, and then building a tiny house on foundation, because there's still the ability to purchase land in single family zoning and build a tiny house on foundation if the city or county doesn't have a minimum square footage requirement. Um, they're just not going in the direction of mobile homes for the most part. Sean is saying the Exodus Summit was personally transformational. I will be in San Miguel during the Charlotte meetup, but summit themed discussions warrant multiple meetups. Absolutely. And I just saw that there was a Charlotte meetup happening this weekend. I won't be here for that. I'm going to be in Atlanta, but I did see that. Um, thank you, Carol. How wide is your home? And yes, we'll be scheduling an appointment. My house is 8.5, almost 9 feet wide, so it doesn't require um, wide load or escort or anything like that. Because when you think about it, you're really the size of it. You're thinking about a lane on the highway, and so under 9 feet, you don't need an escort um, or the wide load designation. But it's worth it. Like if you're not going to be moving your house frequently, it is worth it to go into 10 feet if you can, because those extra 2 feet from what I have, that makes a big difference in a tiny house. So um, getting the wide load sign or in the permits I think for you get them per state, and as I've understood it, permits are like $15, so it's not cost prohibitive. In generally the mover, the driver, the moving company coordinates getting those permits for you, so it's not difficult to do. But the 2 feet of space in the build is major. 2 feet makes a big difference. 2 feet make a big difference in a tiny house build, so keep that in mind. um, um, let's see, and then I missed something else. um, right, team privacy, right, absolutely. um, Cynthia says, "Oh, she can imagine little Jewel saying, 'Who?'" I mean, like, lady, are you serious right now? I am not getting off this bus in that rushing water, and I have been scared of it ever since. Um, yes, no, no, man, we're not doing $100 off. So, um, anyway, Rosalind is saying you can portion off or partition your space off to have your privacy. Yes. I'm gonna get there. Y'all keep working. I'll get there. um, right. So the 180 days, that absolutely moving is relative though. So most places and spaces that have that requirement, RV parks and campgrounds that require the 180-day move, sometimes, well, first of all, there's not usually somebody that's checking that. The second thing is moving can also be you moving, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean the dwelling is moving. So that could look like you spending the night somewhere else and then returning, and the clock starts again. So yes, there are some ways around that. Absolutely. Oh, for the community that's owned as an RV park. So, Sadiq, I see your comment. So the land that I'm considering, that I'm looking at for the community is um, in Monroe, North Carolina, which is 45 minutes outside of Charlotte. It would be the closest tiny house on wheels community to Charlotte. At this point, there isn't. Deidre's community is right now the closest, and that is, I think, an hour and a half. So this would be the closest, like 45 minutes from the Charlotte airport. So that's something that real early stages. It's going to have to be crowdfunded because I don't have the money to do it. So um, yeah, so that's something that I'm working on. Teresa's saying, "Do you still have your tiny RV?" I do, but I'm thinking I'm getting ready to sell that. But yes, I do. Um, um, wait a minute. Rosalind's saying, "Can you say you want to offer urban glamping space like DIYers or tent to get the power on and then move your house after inspection?" No, I've tried. I tried a couple of things already that were even more solid than that. The one thing is I don't want to tip them off, so I'm leaving them alone. Um, and because of the zoning, they're really going to be specific about what can be there. So um, so those options absolutely would not work. Um, and then alerting them to cutting on the power also means they might revisit it. So anyway, um, hey Fortness Garden, I'm glad you made it. So yeah, I tried a couple of things, and I don't want to like keep alerting them because they also start asking a bunch of questions like specifically what property are you talking about, and the more you're um, elusive, then you're tipping them off and they won't answer questions. Um, have a good have a good week, Robert. Thank you so much. Um, and no, so hook up utilities that owner will benefit and market to future tenants or rental of her land. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely no. Happy Sunday, Muse. Happy Sunday. So, oh, and Teresa is asking how expensive is solar for your tiny home. I haven't completely investigated solar for my house. My house pulls a decent amount of power because it is all electric and the size of it, washer, dryer, all of the things, and then that sunroom space. Um, I have not gotten prices for it, but I know it would be kind of pricey. My other concern with solar is I'm not, and it might not be something that I would need to worry about. But in the wintertime when it's gray days, like you have to have the backup battery. And Roslyn probably knows more about this. The backup battery or the solar building your backup battery for gray days when you have several gray days and you're not getting the sun. So my concern is whether I would have to kind of ration out my power because my battery bank is low because we haven't had sun for a while. But I don't know enough about solar to really speak to that, so I don't want to tell any lies. Um, but okay, so I want to show y'all what. So it's a go for the other spot. My maybe trepidation is a word, but again, I'm walking and trusting because so much of this has just worked out smoothly that I haven't pushed it, so I feel like I'm being led in this direction. So I'm trying to trust that. It is a little more open than I want to be, um, but it isn't a well traveled area. Um, it is, I've written out there 10 million times already. There's a lot of trees that are growing that will also shield. Um, and the fact that it's not a well traveled area makes me feel a lot better about it. The other thing is the property owner, at some point between the time that I met her in 2020 and now, she had a tiny house, somebody in a tiny house that she was renting parking to in her front yard. And I don't know how long she had it there, but nobody ever bothered her about this tiny house that she had in her front yard. So I'm hopeful, like I'm not trying to operate in fear, and that's the conversation I keep having with myself daily. I am moving in trust, and so the space is a wide open, beautiful space, access to everything that I need as far as sunshine, and um, I'm I'll have some access to some really beautiful sunsets. It is an area that is zoned for mobile homes, so it's a bunch of mobile homes in the area. The street where I will be on is like a cul-de-sac, and it is this woman and her family and friends that live on the cul-de-sac, and everybody's mobile home is in good condition. It's a really nice looking street. And so I'm excited about that. It will be the first time that I will have a mailbox and an address that I can actually use. Um, that's where I'm going with that. That's what I'm thinking, Crystal. So I that's where I'm going with it. And so the biggest piece of the move is going to be moving my house. And so I want to I'm going to show you all the what I have to do to um, move my house. All right, there it is. So this is my little drawing. I think y'all can see it. Let me see if I can make it bigger. So, um, all right. So this is my drawing of my house. So this is my house, the tiny house. So the tiny house is back behind the screened-in porch, and the sunroom is connected. So I always say my porch and sunroom are like a backward L on the tiny house. So I think you all see the cursor. So think of a backward L. That's the way the porch and the sunroom were built on the tiny house. This space, the porch and the sunroom space, is built on piers or post, you could say. So it's not built on a foundation, but it's not on wheels. And so it can be lifted. And so that's what's going to have to happen. It is built on the exterior of my tiny house. Like, we didn't cut into the tiny house to build, to attach any of it. So when you think about the roof line that is connected to the tiny house, it's going to have to be cut, like cut away, to disconnect it. So the roof line, and also at the floor of the porch in the sunroom. And so remember I said that you have to, I think it's 14 feet. It might be 16 feet. It's either 14 or 16 feet is when you have to get the wide load. Not, no, if it's over 9, you got to get the wide load sign. But if it's over either 14 or 16, you then have to get an escort. And that sometimes includes like the police escort and stuff. And I ain't trying to do, y'all know I ain't trying to do that. So, and then when you're factoring in width, you also have to think about overhang. And so the building itself, the sunroom itself, the width of the sunroom itself is, I think, 16 feet, but the roof overhang on both sides, the roof overhangs almost on the front, it overhangs almost 2 feet, and on the back it overhangs a foot. So you have to add all of that into the width. And when you think about why you have to do that, so if I'm taking it down the road, even though the building is 18 or 16 feet, that overhang, if I'm passing something, that overhang can still hit, like a tractor trailer that's trying to squeeze by. It wouldn't hit a car, but something that also has some height, it can impact. So you have to factor in all of that. So what I have to do is cut it, which I didn't realize I was going to have to do, but it makes sense. So right across here, where I now have like these two orange rectangles, I have to cut the space across here. I think you all see the cursor, at where the backward L, where the bottom of the backward L is. I have to cut it there and make these be 2 spaces, because remember earlier I said length doesn't matter when somebody was talking about a 40-foot length of a tiny house. Length doesn't matter. You can have something long going down the road, but it's the width that becomes the problem. And so I am going to have to cut this into 2 spaces. More than I anticipated doing. So I'll have to have a tiny house mover move the tiny house on wheels, which will be a separate move. and then these two spaces will go on the back of a truck and get moved. I don't know if they can go on the same truck. I'm not sure how that happens. And then I also have my little shed that is an 8x10 that has to be moved. And so those are um, the things that have to be done to move my house. And so I will, two things. Um, when I keep saying like I'm trying to, as Crystal said, move cautiously but confidently in what's for me. So when I first got a quote for moving the house, as I'm thinking about it, did he say 18? Yeah. When I first got a quote for moving the tiny house, not the house part that's on wheels, the added space, my quote was $18,000, and I was like, well, that's not doable. That's not in my budget. And I had gotten that quote when I was in San Miguel, and I had a list of some other um, companies to get quotes from. And this was like my first week in San Miguel when he came back with the $18,000. And so I decided I wasn't going to ask for any more quotes while I was in San Miguel. I didn't want to um, get a whole bunch of high quotes and ruin my energy. Like I didn't want to feel defeated while I was in San Miguel. And so I just stopped getting quotes after I got that $18,000 quote, and I said I'll deal with this when I get back home. And so one of the women that I reached out to for a quote reached out, and she was I had sent her this diagram, and so she told me that they wanted to come see the house so they could look at it themselves. And so I told her I was traveling, and I said so it'll be a couple of weeks before I'm back home, and then we can do that. So again, I'm thinking I don't want another negative to ruin my time. And so she asked me, she said, well, do you have to be home for us to come and look at the house? And so I just didn't respond to her. I didn't want to go back and forth with her because I had my own reasoning for why I wasn't dealing with it. And so I didn't respond to her anymore. Thank you, Jocelyn. And so the next day, my Ring camera starts going off, and it says there's a person at your house. And so I look on one of the cameras because I got four out there. um, I look on one of the cameras and I see this big long truck, and I'm like, who's in front of my house? I wasn't sure if it was the property owner out there doing something. But then I look on the other camera on the side and I see this guy with a measuring tape going around the house, measuring um, the house. And so I'm thinking, so I know it's the lady who asked me, did I have to be home? And so then a few minutes later, she sends me a text message and she says, this is, this is the quote for moving the house. She said, we got all the measurements. It's doable. And this is the quote for moving the house. And her quote was less than half of what that $18,000 was. It was less than half of that. And they have some excellent reviews. And I cried. And I cried because I said I was, Sadiqa saying, I know good and well. I kind of felt that for a minute, but I'd already given their address. And so I was thinking, like, who does that? But I had, maybe if it hadn't gone in a positive direction, I would have felt really another way about it. But the quote was less than half of the $18,000. So Crystal is saying how. So as part of me having to tell them to get a quote for the move, I had to tell them where I am, where I'm going to, because that factors in as well. So that's how they had my address. Because I had to fill out an intake form. So that's how they had my address. Um, so the quote was less than half. And so I cried because I said, God, you are, even when I am in, when I said to you all that I am, I have done a lot of ostriching lately where I don't want to deal with stuff and I just kind of avoid it. And I was avoiding that because I was anticipating that it was going to be bad news. And this woman took the initiative and came back with some excellent news. And that was really yeah, that was really a highlight for me, on my trip, where, it could have gone totally the other way. But I was so grateful that even when I'm in avoidance and even when I'm um, not wanting to hear the negative or the hard message, maybe, like, I would have to deal with it. I have to suck it up and just, I didn't want to do that. And so I was grateful that that happened that way as I was in avoidance, and I felt like that was really God, and which is why I've also said that I feel like I'm being directed to this location, even when I'm not taking action. There's some action happening on my behalf, and that was the way I felt about that action. Some things took place on my behalf as I was being inactive, and so um, that is absolutely doable. Um, and I so then I mean, and so it's like a whole bunch of coordinated pieces, that things that have to be undone at the location where I am. I've talked to you all about, like, the wrapping of my house that I have. That has to be undone. I'll have to have the mover come in, really do the tiny house mover. I'm going to use a professional tiny house delivery company to do that. So I'll need them to come and look at the house, because every time that it's been sitting, I want somebody to analyze the tires and the axles and all of those things. Thank you, Levi. Absolutely. Um, so have them come and do yeah, a thorough analysis to make sure the house is roadworthy. And then when I cut, and so I saw the question, who asked, did I have any, do I ever have leaks? Sadiq asked, do I ever have leaks, get leaks in the sunroom? So when it was first built, yes. On the side of the sunroom, I did have some roof leaks, but I had a company come out and that's been addressed. Um, so um, Chris Strathy, who I've introduced to you all, the capable carpenter on IG, who's a friend of mine, is I'm going to have him put it back together. So it's like Humpty Dumpty. I got to take Humpty Dumpty apart and then put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And so I'm going to have Chris help me do that. I trust Chris, and I know he does good work. Um, C is saying that I see it as you being active in protecting your peace, and that being a reminder that things are still being worked on your behalf. Your needs have been heard. Absolutely. Okay, Corinda, don't you make me cry. Absolutely. That's exactly the way I saw it. Like, I did not want to disturb my peace, my emotion. I was there to work on my mental health and my emotions, and I didn't want to add anything to that. Um, Corinda got me. And that's exactly how I felt, that even when I'm not working, and even when and I was actively avoiding, um, it was working on behind in the for me. Absolutely. Thank you, Clarinda. That was exactly what I felt. Um, I almost made it all the way through and I hadn't cried. Um, so I was talking about the leaks, and I was talking about putting it back together. Um, I feel like the putting it back together So on the porch, my screens are messed up on the porch right now. I also had some of my lift during the hurricane, and I've had some strong winds come through there that have messed up the screens and the roof on the porch. So it's a little bit in disarray right now, and I'm not going to have anybody. One, it's hard to get somebody to come out there where I am, which is another reason why I'm happy to be moving closer in, and then I'll have it fixed once it's moved. But I have to take everything out of the porch and the sunroom space, which I wasn't necessarily anticipating. I thought they could move it with the stuff in there. I think that was wishful thinking. So I think I talked about getting a pod. I'm sure we talked about that. So I'm going to have to get a pod and move that stuff in there. And the outside stuff has to get moved, and that's probably going to go in a U-Haul truck because I don't put inside stuff with outside stuff because you know there's some bugs in the outside stuff. And I am bug averse. So it's going to be a whole major effort, but as I think about it, um, I am saving my life. Like, I don't ever want to have an experience like I had with the mini stroke and be alone. I also feel like um, I need to be more in community, see people. My friends right now are some cats, and I love them. But I also need some human interaction. There is some impact. Like, I keep reading things about how they say, you people need to be in community and how it leads to mental health issues and all of that stuff. And I can see that happening for sure, or see how that could happen. And I don't want to put myself in that type of predicament unnecessarily. So it's time. This location is north of Charlotte. It's 30 minutes north of Charlotte, so it's really only 15 minutes closer technically than where I am. But it is an area that is like a suburb of Charlotte, more so, an up and coming city that is really putting effort into growth and becoming a city, not necessarily a big city, but they've got Greenway and all of the things to become a great city, a great small city, versus where I am now is just a rural area. They have, like, as the signs that you see now for voting, they really want people to vote against expansion and all of the things down there. So they really have no desire to be a big city. They are comfortable with, the one grocery store in Dollar General and Family Dollar and two or three restaurants. So um, the area where I'm going, and y'all know I'm purposely not saying where it is an up and coming city. It has a Publix, it ain't City Market in San Miguel, but it is one of my grocery stores that I like. I don't love it, but I used to love Publix, kinda. It was the mark for my grocery store, but nothing now compares to City Market. So um, it does have restaurants and people, and I can get delivery at the address. I can call it Uber. And, these are the things that I really didn't think of when I was first moving down there. Like, for me, I don't think I felt like there was anywhere in the surrounding area where I wouldn't be able to get an Uber, or I would have challenges getting um, um, a tow truck, or what is it, your service, the service that you have for your car. I couldn't get somebody to come out and change a tire. It's challenging to get contractors to come out there, and those are things that I didn't necessarily know prior to. And so it's been, the struggle, like, to get an Uber. I have to drive into the next city over, Monroe, that I was talking about for the tiny house community. I would have to go into Monroe, or go maybe, I don't know, Wingate, but go into Monroe and get an Uber. And so it's a challenge to. And when I was having my surgeries, I needed to. Um, I didn't want to ask anybody, to come that far to see about me, because it is a drive, and so I'm excited, to move in that direction. And so it's a lot of work that I have to do. But again, and it's a lot of, it'll be an expense that I didn't necessarily have planned. It's a lot of work. But as I keep thinking about it, I'm worth it. And so, yeah. Um, Thank you, Sadiq. Absolutely. Thank you, thank you. Oh, Crystal is saying the cats. So interestingly enough, right now I only have two cats around. When I was going to San Miguel, the bulk of them moved on. I'm hoping that they're okay. They just went somewhere else because I was gone and they were tired of waiting on me. My little tuxedo cat, my little favorite cat, I haven't seen him. And that's my favorite one, the little black cat. He's my little sweetheart. I haven't seen him, so I'm sad about that. I do hope I get to see him before I leave. But there are two female cats that showed up after I had been home. Maybe they came back about 3 or 4 days later, and so they're still there. Um, I would not consider moving them. Like I'm going to be trying to wean them into being more self sufficient. I know they'll be okay. Like when San Miguel is gone, and they are survive. They survive. They're feral cats for the most part. Um, I definitely wouldn't try to move them. I actually did Google that, but it said it's not good to relocate feral cats because they're used to their environment. I halfway, like, I might snag the tuxedo cat and take him because I just adore him. But you're not supposed to do that for feral cats. But I will miss them. I'll probably still go down there and maybe try to visit them at some point. But they'll be okay. Um, Day is saying, did your friend who was a guest on your channel find a location for her home on wheels? Mm, who are you speaking of? Ediaka? Um, I'm not sure. That's the only person I think I know of right now that's looking for a space for her home. Sadiq is asking, are you still in contact with your friends you had on the show with you during your build? No. Interesting. People, places, and things. Stuff changes. People change, and that has been some of the change over this 10-year journey. So unfortunately, fortunately, a season. So no, we're not still in contact. So I'm assuming you were thinking they should be involved in the move some way, but no, we're not still in contact. Anyway, Crystal, I think you're laughing about me talking about I might snag the tuxedo cat. That's my dude. He is so laid back and chill. Like I feel like we're the our energy is so similar. He actually reminds me of my nephew, which is funny. And I told my brother that this cat reminds me of my nephew. Like he don't have to be in the front. He just gonna chill and come around later and rub up against my legs after everybody else has done their thing, and he just observing. He don't get involved when they are fighting and stuff. He's just observing, and that is so my brother's son, just real laid back and chill and observing. And so the tuxedo cat is my favorite dude. Um, but yeah, so stay tuned. The move, um, my intention is to try to, I would normally not move over the winter, um, but I want to be in place by springtime. And so that means moving in the winter. I also, as I think about winter, y'all know I struggle in the winter. Gray days and rain and cold, I struggle. And having the move to focus on, as well as being in transit, will keep me occupied, and then being in that space. I kind of anticipate, like, as I try to figure out how this will happen, I think I would be able to move the house. So as they cut it, the sunroom and the porch, the sunroom mostly is gonna be open. Yeah, both of them will be open. So that'll have to get wrapped, like plastic wrap, so everything won't be inside the house. And I know once everything gets over there, it's going to be a process of putting it back together. But I should, once they move the tiny house on wheels piece of it, I should be able to live in that space as the rest of it is being put together. That's kind of what I think in my head. So we'll see. I might have to stay somewhere else while the process is happening, but we'll see. Thank you, Crystal. I'm excited as well. Thank you, thank you. Um, um, Crystal is saying take them, and I see somebody saying as long as they don't affect your allergies. Now they still do, not as bad, but they still do. I still find myself having to take allergy medicine. It's not as bad with them, and so maybe I've built up a tolerance for them. But I was around another cat somewhere, and my allergies kicked up. So maybe it's a tolerance or something for them, but they still affect my allergies, and I'll giggle as I'm in the house, sneezing and trying to get my life together, that I have willingly interacted with cats, and now I'm in distress as I'm sneezing and stuff, but they still get me. Um, Thank you, Sadiq. I'm grateful for the community you're building now and the ones you've been a part of over the years. Thank you so much. So yeah, that is what I'm doing. Thank y'all for hanging around and catching up. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for the super chats. That was extra sweet. Sorry I couldn't drop any links. I have to figure out why my cut and paste isn't working, but happy to connect with you all. It's been a minute. I've missed you all for sure. Thank you to all of my guests who showed up. Stephanie C, my extra guests, outside of the collective soul. Um, Crystal trying to make me take the tuxedo cat. If he shows up, I might just have to get him. We'll see. Um, so thank y'all. He reminds me of Nasir too. His black and white. Nasir looked like the cat in the hat. He reminds me of Nasir. Um, Absolutely, Patty. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the new names that I saw in the chat. Thank you to the Soul Collective who shows up and is supportive all the time. Dominique is saying from Morea. That's probably because they are L's of Y's. I think that's right. I'm glad to see you again and excited to hear things are working out for you as you wish. I've been in the midst of my move abroad. Congratulations to you. That's beautiful. I don't know where that is. I'm going to have to look it up. I hope it is all going well for you. Thank you. All right, good people. Happy Sunday. I think I've covered everything that I had to cover. Um, Catching up, the move. Um, yep, all of the things. We'll be back in touch soon. I should see y'all next Sunday. If there's a meetup happening, that if I'm participating in Atlanta, I'll let y'all know. It'll be on my socials. And thank you, Crystal. And that's it. Happy Sunday. Have a good week. Thanks, y'all. I appreciate y'all. Take care.